Good day. When you think about solo dungeon farming, what pops up in your head? This, or this? I constantly see all these posts about people crying about no loot, but I can assure you, the solo dungeon is still one of the safest and rather fast way to make silver, even for a newbie. Well, I present you the Road to Premium Solo Dungeon Edition. Solo dungeons are not always about boring mob farming with no rewards. If you mix it with a little bit of math and strategy, it can become a really strong moneymaker. Can't say about the fame though. Once again, I decided to go 1100 IP with the same close setup, so grab 5.1 and 7.6 million fame. What map shall we bring? This topic is actually harder than I thought. The basic high is better doesn't work here. The easiest solution could be Tier 8 map. It offers the high loot value of any map, but the problem is they jump all over the place, which is a huge downtime for the farming. Also, sometimes they can jump zones you don't really want to enter. Are there other solutions? Well, yeah, there are. I made a full table with loot silver difficulty values of all maps from Tier 6 to 8.3. Since map with the second enchanted or higher barely worth it for their price, I decided to exclude them for the table. So there are 6 Tier 6.1, 0.2, Tier 7, 7.1 and Tier 8 maps with their stats available on the table. Tier 6 is a pretty solid start for a new player. They offer good loot for their price and losing them is not a big deal. If one has a premium, I'd recommend to upgrade straight to 6.1. The 30% reward increase should pay for the slightly increased price, but Tier 7, however, is also a pretty solid option. They also happen to be slightly lower difficulty than 6.1. Tier 7 doesn't have Tier 4 drops, but instead it offers better chance for Tier 7 and Tier 8 loot instead. Also, the map costs 50% less. I had to try all maps to see which one is the most comfortable to farm. And if you think I'll make a solo dungeon mod, all maps I tried had their pros and cons. Let's start from 6.1. The map can be done almost at the beginning of player's progression, as only Tier 6 river is mostly required. Some mobs on Tier 6 don't do skills they would normally do, which makes the farming a little bit easier. The crowd control of the mobs is the weakest across the maps, which makes it less punishing if you get pulled by the scorpion. The low tier allows to find specific areas of the map where you can spam map non-stop in the same zone, which increases the loot per hour drastically. The map still can be opened in the same zone, although there are less such areas available. The crowd control, compared to 6.1, is pretty harsh. It is not as bad as Tier 8, but scorpions and other heavy crowd control enemies can be fatal in some situations. What about Tier 8? It has no Tier 4 or T5 trash. The CC on mobs is insane, and sadly, there's no place I know of where you can open them in the same area. Since 6.1 and Tier 7 offer the same loot per hour, I did a comparison of Tier 7 versus Tier 8 map, and there are the results. It took me 11 hours for Tier 7 or 10 hours for Tier 8 map to reach Premium. That's 119 Tier 7 or 86 Tier 8 maps, with 11 or 8.6 maps per hour. Tier 7 maps offered 182k each, while Tier 8 offered 250k per map. What about strategy? You really want to have one. If you want to maximize your profit, the number one tactic is to look for specific zone that is surrounded by higher level zones than your map. This will make your map only spawn in the same location where you're at. It doesn't work for Tier 8 since this is the highest tier. The other trick is to go Roads of Avalon and seek for hideout zones, with their names begin with Sec or Set. These are Tier 6 or Tier 7 zones respectively. Once in their area, you can easily open maps here and be sure they'll stay in the same zone. Keep in mind, the Avalonian roads only allow maps of the same tier as the zone. To decrease the time you travel between dungeons, you can do a little dirty trick by blocking all the available solo dungeon spawn points with maps. To do this, you want to buy an extra free maps, bring them with you. Once you enter the location, open a map and go to its spawn location. Once the dungeon reveals, open another one. Continue this until you see the message shown on the screen. Now all you need to do is close the last dungeon and you are free to farm dungeon in the same exact spot. It can also work in open world, but you would need much more dungeon maps, so probably not worth it. You entered the dungeon, what's now? This is where the fun begins. Forget about 90 seconds before clearing, usually it takes around 4 to 5 minutes to clear. This would make the waiting increase the clear time by 33%. You get 5 mobs you can skip without locking down the chest. But there's more than that. The smaller mobs, ones that drop lower amount of silver or don't drop it at all, except for the big rogue golems, don't even count toward the threshold, so you can easily skip them. The trouble begins when the mob pack is mixed with small and big mobs. Then suddenly, any, no matter size mob will count toward the threshold. You really want to clear such packs, at least from small mobs. This will decrease aggroed mobs count. But be careful with Keeper's Dungeon. Try not to skip any mob at all. If you will encounter the Shaman boss, the chest will not open, if even a single aggroed mob was untouched. The reason was found in one of the previous videos. When the boss is started, the shrines around it will be activated with the boss, so each one of them will suddenly go towards the threshold. 5 shrines, 5 mobs. The other thing I want to mention is Morganatomes. If the mob was aggroed really close to them, sometimes they will shadow aggro, and this will count toward the threshold too. Take them down before you ended up with a locked chest. I want to bring up Set's question once again. The used set is not the best option, but it is the cheapest one. There are many things you can change to improve the efficiency, like IP for example. Bring a better set to increase the farming rate, but also some set pieces could be changed too, like Mage Robe. It could be replaced with more damaging phase scale or faster to heal in between packs Cultist Robe. Both offer high HP and defense thanks for extra AP. The offhand could be changed to Crypt Candle for increased damage. However, Torch increases mobility because of cooldown reduction, which may allow faster completion. Mage Call could be swapped with Cultist Skull for huge solo target damage. Of course, we are missing the cape. Thetford is the best option for the slot. As for the boot slot, if you don't have problems with mana, leather shoes will increase the farming rate thanks to cooldown reduction. Otherwise, closed sandals are fine. The solo dungeons were, and still is pretty solid option for silver farming. Here's a table of expected gain per map from tier 6 to 8.3. The fame could use a little boost, but even then, it is a pretty consistent and somewhat safe method to make your first premium. Thanks for watching.